and Triple H and Stephanie. And now we've got a collision course for No Way Out. It's Hell in the Cell, and Mick Foley's career is on the line. What do you think about those? You know, I know you're big on stakes, Eric, but a career match just being made in a promo like this. You went to this kind of early in the Hulk Hogan Ric Flair feud. In 1994, you set all kinds of records with Bash at the Beach. And we know that you're going to try to run it back at Halloween Havoc. Maybe it's stalling compared to what happened in July. So we make it, hey, Rick's going to put his career on the line. We knew we were going to bring him back. I know you're big on stakes, but this retirement stip, it's a stake that almost no one believes. Did you guys kill that stipulation? Was it already dead when you found it? What do you think of that retirement stip, Eric?
I don't think we killed it because it still exists, unfortunately. But I know I've said this a lot over the years, but sometimes you learn more from mistakes than you do from success. And putting one's career on the line probably falls into that category. It's an easy go-to because the stakes are relatable. It should matter. But as you pointed out correctly, Conrad, nobody buys it. You're setting up stakes that nobody believes are going to be true. Or they're not, it's not real. And I remember Ric Flair. Now, Rick was a challenge at Halloween Havoc. That was, I think it took place in Detroit. We had Muhammad Ali there, and it was a great night. A lot of great boxing. Tommy Hearns was there. Sugar Ray Leonard was there. A lot of great boxing talent was there that I was excited to meet. But Rick was beside himself, and he was beside himself for a couple of reasons. One is Rick wasn't exactly sure what his contractual status would be afterwards, and he was concerned, based on his history, that he could be put in a position where he loses any leverage at all. And I kind of understood that, but I didn't accept it because I knew what I was going to do. There was no way I was going to take advantage of Rick and be forced into a retirement match and then not re-sign him. That was never going to happen. Ever, ever, ever going to happen. I wouldn't be that manipulative. But Rick was also concerned that these are stupid stakes. Nobody's going to believe I'm going to retire. And he didn't want to be involved in something that he knew the audience wasn't going to buy into. Now, I didn't realize it. I didn't give that conversation with Rick enough weight at the time, but it's one of those things that I learned, not once, but twice, is just not a good idea. You want to create stakes that are believable. You want to create stakes that people say to themselves, consciously or subconsciously, you know, this could matter. This could affect his career. This could affect whatever. But to have fake stakes like that is a bad decision. It's probably always. Now, here's an exception. If we knew, for example, that Ric Flair was on his way to Tibet and he wanted to become a monk and he was never coming back, then great, do it. Because then it's real and it matters. But to set a guy up in a retirement match that you know is coming back, it just pisses the audience off. They know you're just fucking with them and they get hot about that. So don't do it. I learned that the hard way, twice.
I like when you can drop a little knowledge here. Hey, let's talk about what we're seeing on the show here. We're seeing the Dudley Boys just plowing Edge and Christian through these tables. We also saw one of the most over acts in wrestling in the year 2000. The New Age Outlaws out here doing their rap. Did you ever get a chance to catch the New Age Outlaws? What'd you think of their stuff? The idea of Road Dogg, and I mean the former roadie, one half of Jeff Jarrett's act, and Billy Gunn, you know, one half of the former Smoking Guns. It felt like these guys were just sort of drifting along aimlessly as the roadie and rockabilly, and they come together and it becomes a happy accident. Brian James is an entertaining son of a gun, and man, they were over like Rover in 2000, seemingly out of nowhere. And still to this day, people know the entire rap all the way through. Were you surprised how well that caught on?
No, I wasn't. No, I really wasn't following Road Dogg or Billy Gunn too much. I wasn't really that familiar with their careers, so I didn't have an opinion one way or the other until I saw them together. And I think together, especially now after so much time has gone by, you can look back and I think, at least my opinion, that these two individually, for whatever reason, just but together it's like 1 + 1 = 4. And the chemistry, they had fun working together. And it's always a big factor, right? If you enjoy the people you're working with, if you enjoy the chemistry and you can feed off of each other, there's nothing more fun. And if you're having fun, like we're seeing right now, if you're having fun in the ring with your character, it's pretty hard for the audience not to have fun watching you. Firm believer in that. If you're in a match, if you've got a tag team partner, for example, that you just prefer not to see until you absolutely have to, the chemistry is not going to be there. You're not going to enjoy it, and neither is the crowd. But every once in a while, you connect two people that, otherwise maybe would have been lukewarm, and the magic happens because the chemistry happens, and all of a sudden you've got a superstar team on your hands. It's pretty awesome.
It is fun to see how the tag team division in WWE is changing. This is an interesting time because for so long, tag teams have not been a priority with the WWF. But now you take a look, and all of a sudden, you got the New Age Outlaws, you got the Dudley Boys, you got Edge and Christian, you got the Hardy Boys. If you had to think about the heyday of WCW tag teams, is there one? I mean, this feels like maybe one of the bigger booms for WWE tag teams, but was there ever a WCW tag team era, Eric?
I think in the early 90s, WCW tended to rely a lot more on tag teams. Certainly, you think of the Steiner Brothers, Harlem Heat, it's two of the most prolific teams in WCW, two of the most prolific teams in professional wrestling, for that matter. Were obviously a big part of WCW. But when I started getting control of WCW, particularly during that period of time where I spent a year, 2 years cutting costs, I just took out a calculator and went, wait a minute. I've got to make a decision. Are we going to build the tag team division, or are we going to pare it down, reduce the size of it? And it was just a financial issue, as I'm sure it has been with WWE over the course of their history. There are times when you just look at your roster and you look at the math that comes with it and you go, wait a minute, if I'm going to have a tag team division that actually matters, and it's not just a filler match to break up the monotony of singles matches during a 2-hour, 3-hour show. But if you really want to build a tag team and get a tag team over, they're going to need a bunch of opponents. They can't go out there and wrestle each other every week. So now you're building a segment of your roster that has twice the cost. The cost of goods, in this case, talent, is twice as much than you're going to have in a singles match. And it just becomes a math problem. But for that reason, I personally got away from tag team wrestling because it just didn't fit in the budget, to be very honest, in the beginning. Now, later on, 96, 97, 98, the financial issue wasn't as big of a deal. But by that time, we kind of minimized the tag team division over the previous couple of years. And it just wasn't high on my list of priorities. And I would imagine WWE has gone through that again, who knows how many times over the past 30 or 40 years. You just got to look at the numbers and go, oh, this isn't working. I got to make a change.